Hello, I'm Olivia Sayward, and I am starting a series of conversations about the different ways that we find a way to come home to Earth, and what kind of practices or traditions or rituals go into that to kind of help us ground into our local terroir, and find a way to become more self-actualized also in that grounding to the earth and finding our different expressions of how we can help in the world. And so today I asked my friend Tash to join us, Tash English, and she's an amazing herbalist who's become a very good friend of mine. And so as she works so intimately with the natural world, I asked her to be my guest today. And I'll ask you to do even just a small introduction of yourself towards the end, but I just wanted to jump straight into it.
Yeah.
And I've had this question for quite a while, so I'm going to ask it now.
Now's the time.
Yeah. I was wondering what differences you notice between maybe herbalism or the plant life in Australia and here, since you came from Australia. And so I've always wondered how that has influenced your practice or your connection to plants.
Oh, that's a very good question. I don't think I've ever had that question asked before. I think people always forget that I'm from Australia. Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, my education is from Australia, but I did it mainly here. So my connection to the plant world is almost more deeply rooted within European plant medicine than it is, especially Northern European and UK and all of that, than more Australian medicinal plants, let's put it that way. But I do notice, and this happened to me last time when I was back in Australia, I had some very interesting experiences. Particularly, I think I was much more aware about it last time, but the last times over the years, that where I'll explore the Australian nature and I'll come across a plant and I didn't even know the plant really, and then of course I'll go, there's something about this plant, I think it's edible, or I think it's medicinal. And then I'll take photos and I'll research it, and it's most of the time, especially the last times, about 90% of the time the plant was edible or medicinal. Sometimes it was poisonous, but it was still a medicinal plant. And I found that very interesting, that there's something in me that, because I'm from there, growing up there until I was 23, that you do, even as a child, have such a connection with the nature. That you don't really lose that. And because I was a bush baby, as we call them, bush babies in Australia, growing up very, very, very much in the nature, like in the forests, I was playing with plants all the time. You know, I remember making potions and playing with them and picking berries, and with my other friends we would all do it. And so there is some sort of, there's something that I must have taught myself. And then I ask myself a little bit, like, how much do we really just then learn so much just from the plant itself? You know, that it's great to be learning from books, and it's great to be learning from mentors and other people, of course, but I'm a strong believer of really connecting with the plants in your environment and seeing what they're kind of telling you. So I feel like I went off that question, but I feel like I have a connection there, both in a very different way. Here, it's like I just know the plants. I'm out there, and then I'm kind of like, I know that, I know this one, I know this one. In Australia, it's a much more ethereal kind of connection I have with the plants. But also there's something very deep there I have, because I know the landscape so well. And when I'm there, it's almost like I can breathe a bit more, and I'm a little bit more open. Maybe that's what it is. And so I can dig into that world a little bit. But that's what it feels like a little bit. It's like I just look at the plant and I'm like, oh, okay, I know you. We know there's something about you.
Yeah.
It's an interesting experience.
I wonder how much of that is also like both your connection but Australia as a country too, because sometimes I've gotten insight. I mean, I popped out there, but I didn't get to really experience it, but I have sometimes gotten insight that whole idea of like the dream time and this kind of like, I don't know, like thresholds, that Australia seems to have a specific energy around that as well.
I mean, it is. It's a very raw country, you know. You're there and you really can feel it, how raw it is. There's something very, I mean, it is very childlike still in a way compared to Europe. Europe's had such a long period of people, what do you even call it, people living here like kings and queens and people owning land and stuff. And Australia is really not that old. It's only a couple of 100 years old in terms of white people being there, basically pretending that they own land. So it's quite new for that. So you do, I think you're probably right, that you still feel that energy of when it was not owned, when it was still very like real. It sounds so terrible, but you know, when people still work so connected. And the way that Aboriginals work with plants is, or with nature, or with their environment, is really beautiful, you know. They have like things where when the berries bloom on a certain tree, then they know that the mud crabs are coming up, as an example. Like that's, I don't know if that's a real example, but that's how they work. Some of the tribes have worked like that. And there is so much knowledge there. It's just that it's passed on. And of course, as a white person, which is definitely understandable, you don't have that. It's hard to infiltrate that way of the world there. So it's really quite sad how it's, you know, we could go down a whole little path about that, how sad it is with Australia and the way what happened there. But the nature is very special there.
And so you started your herbal education there.
I started my herbal education, it's funny, because I grew up with natural medicine all my life. My mother always treated me with herbs or homeopathics or, I don't know, cranial sacral. So I grew up a lot around this sort of stuff, even past life things I've had from like friends of hers. So I've had it around me all my life. And I do remember some friends of my mum's who were very witchy. You know, they were very much, I have very clear memories of them, like some of them not all with plants, but this very, very connected to this other world. And so I think I learnt a lot from them. I always put it down to them. And then my grandmother loved her plants. You know, I have such memories of her being in the garden. She loved her roses, and I have memories of her being in the garden there with her. So it's kind of, I guess it's always been quite an influence on my life. And then I decided to follow my grandmother in another direction, which was in fashion, and which was great because it was also very creative. And I guess I worked with a lot of natural fibers, so it was always this kind of, I never worked with synthetics. I loved the silks and I loved even things like, I loved the way silkworms made them, and then they would pick the mulberry. I used to have silkworms, pick the mulberry leaves and give them to the silkworms, and I found all that stuff just very fascinating, that world. And then and then I did a sabbatical and I came to herbs. It was a friend of mine who suggested it. He said he was studying Chinese medicine, and he said, I think that you should go work with herbs. You love cooking, and there's something, and he sort of pushed me a little bit in that direction. No, he didn't push me, but gave me a little flick. And he was at a school in Australia, and so I contacted the school to see if I could do it while living here. And so they allowed me to do, because I was English speaking, or mother tongue English, they allowed me to do sections of it here, and parts of it I did have to go back to Australia. To like the practical parts. I had to do stints in Australia, and then they actually allowed me to do my my clinic hours, because you have to do them with a herbalist, in an English speaking country. So I chose Scotland. I found a great herbalist there. Call out to Claire, amazing herbalist there if you need someone. And I did my clinic hours with her. So it was interesting. I was learning about they didn't have it. What I didn't actually like in the learning is they didn't have a whole lot of Australian plants in there.
Yeah.
It was Western, as they call it, Western herbalism, which I can struggle sometimes a little bit with that term, but herbalism, more this European kind of herbalism. And so I had the luck of a lot of these plants were growing in my environment, and at the time I had a garden. And so while I was learning, I was basically out there in the forest constantly. So my learning was very books, but then very hands-on as well, like the whole time, which is maybe because the way I work now has influenced a lot about that.
Yeah, I also wanted to ask that because I think for a lot of people it's maybe they feel a call to plants, but they don't know how to get started, or they don't know, you know, how did all these other herbalists become herbalists? And I guess, yeah, it's always important or good to hear another description of like how someone got into it, because it's usually very non-linear and winding. And so I also wanted to ask you, you know, how do you cope, or what has kept you on the plant path, even though it's so non-linear, and maybe you have, I don't know, you know, an example story of like, you know, those special moments that show you like, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and this is where I want to keep growing and moving.
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot by particularly people when they want to come onto it, and it's a really good question. You know, I still sometimes ask other herbalists the same question, like, what kept you on there? I mean, my first answer always with it, which is has been very dominant in me the whole time, is I can't not. It's just like, it's quite an interesting one, because however much I've wanted to veer sometimes, because it can be very difficult. It can be a difficult way of moving through the world, because we're living in a very modern society, and working with the plants it can be a bit, people can see it very esoterically, and then you have the whole medical industry and the whole pharma industry, and there's all of that as well. But I guess you find your people, and for me it was always just like, I just can't not. It's just, there's really no option for me. So I think for me it really was a calling in that way of, that's just where I've got to go. And I guess things that have kept me going is working with the plants. Like, I don't understand that there are herbalists out there which are herbalists and they don't work very deeply with plants, and I've never understood that way of being a herbalist, because I don't understand how you can be you can't understand, but that's just the way my Wesen in German, my spirit is, that I have to be out there, and you discover so many great things. I guess that's what keeps me going, is like this year when I was picking a plant and it was for hemorrhoids and I was pulling it out, and I'm always so like amazed by like pulling this out, and then it looks like hemorrhoids, and for me it just brings such a smile to my face, and then I'm just so ecstatic about it for days afterwards that I'm showing everyone, and I'm telling everyone, you know. I remember running down, I was at with a group of people, and I ran down and I was like showing them all that, look, they look like, what do these look like? And so many people were like, they look like little hemorrhoids. I was like, that's what it's for, the plant. And it was so exciting to me, you know. So I think little things like that keep me going, or with my herbal students, you know, when I see them growing and I see these little sparks in their eyes of all of a sudden they're understanding a plant, or all of a sudden they've come back to me and they've gone, oh, I went and sat with Rose and then I made something and I've just understood like another part of it, or they've healed a cough, you know, or helped a cough that they've had, or little things like this really, I think they really bring me on my world, like watching, interesting enough, now that I'm thinking about it, also not just me being alone in nature, but also watching other people develop in their own herbal art, or patients when I've, you know, treated them and then I see symptoms go away and I'm like, oh, that plant, it just did such good work, and I did nothing. I just put the plant in the thing and they've taken it, and it's just like, it's just done something to them, you know. And all those little beauties, also very ethereal beauties, which is, plants are like that, aren't they? They're really another language, and I think when you learn to learn to slowly speak that language, then you can get these little insights which make you feel so good about why you're working with them.
Yeah.
And I guess a tip which I could give to anyone out there who wants to start is just do it. Just start, you know. Do some research on some herbal books. Get some good ones. Get very good references. That's really important to me. Go and do a foraging course, you know. I think it's really important that at first you learn from some people as well as get some good books, but also get out there. You know, go and just go sit with a dandelion. Just sit with it and, you know, or a nettle, and see what it feels like when it stings you. It's a good plant to start with, you know. It's, you know, it's nettle because it's going to sting you, and then you're like, yeah, that's nettle, and see what it does. If you're an artist, like, you draw it, or, you know, if you want to touch it or eat it, or, you know, first test it on yourself just in case you have an allergy. But yeah, I would just start, and don't be too worried about where it's going to take you, because you're never going to know. That you can't control nature like that. It is so unlinear, and actually that's what is the most beautiful thing about it. You know, in our modern society, everything's like this, so linear, and we have to be like this, and this kind of ways of thinking. And I think people who are drawn to working with nature have this very unlinear thinking, and they need that in their life to make them feel like that they're
sane,
that they're not insane. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, because otherwise you feel like you're insane.
Yeah.
And find other people that are interested in it. Form a group, you know. You will start to find these people. They will come to you. You know, I have people all over the world that work with plants, and I'm always talking to them and interacting and visiting them, and yeah. That's often what I can suggest, just doing little baby steps. And you'll never stop learning, and you'll actually, the more you know, the less you know. And take it slow. You know, don't think that you're going to know all the plants in a year. You know, you probably know 2 plants really well in a year, I can tell you. And that's another good thing, actually. That's what I suggest to my herbal students, is choose one plant and learn about it. Just one plant every year. I do that as well. I choose a new plant, or a plant, they often choose me, to be honest. And then I often will learn about that plant. I sometimes have a few more, but I do suggest just keeping it small, and just choose one plant and watch it through its whole growth. You know, watch it where it grows, where you find it, how many medicines you can make with it, how much, can you eat it, how are other cultures working with it, you know, how are other maybe friends that you've got working with it. That would be one activity I would suggest to anyone wanting to start out. Yeah.
And I've noticed when you make your medicine, you're also often doing it in sync with, like, the moon. So you're, like, picking it at a certain time, or, Tell me more.
Tell you more. So this is a medical astrology, it's called. In the ways, it's sort of like it's medical astrology, but medical astrology is then with the charts and stuff, and then you choose particular plants, which is on the charts. It's a very complex system. I'm still a very novice at it. I'm still learning from Elizabeth Brooke. Call out to her. She's great if you ever want to learn from her. But how I work a little bit more with it is the other side of it, where the plants are ruled by certain planets, and then I will pick those plants on those planetary days. Okay. Sometimes, even if I'm lucky, if I get the hour also, like if I happen to be out in the forest or I happen to have time, then I'll even pick it on the hour, around the hour as well. And it gives it much more power. So if you're doing nettle, which is ruled by Mars, and you're picking it on the Mars day, which is the Tuesday, maybe in the Mars hour, then you're going to have a really potent nettle tincture. It's going to be very Marsy, and then you can use it for particular ailments. So you might use it for even someone who might have, I'm very novice at this with like using it then for people with their Mars and their planetary, because I'm not an astrologer. But the way that I do it is then I know that this is quite a full-on Marsy, nettly energy. And I've got one actually at the moment, and it smells so hardcore. It's like, for me, I'm a bit sensitive to nettle, I find it almost like I can almost not take it. I can have a little drop of it, and for me it's like, whoa, it's too much. There's too much heat in there for me, and too much of that really fiery energy, which I already have way too much of. So for me, it can be a little bit too much. But for someone that maybe needs that, it can be a real boost, and it can really help them. And I wouldn't use it on, you wouldn't use it necessarily on all people. You have to be very careful who you use it on, because it can be quite powerful.
Yeah, just, I mean, a random thought, but I have Mars in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus.
Yeah.
So I almost wonder, like, for me, if it would work better to have a nettle that was picked more in line with Venus.
It
as
could.
like a balance almost.
It could, but interestingly enough, that tincture could also work quite well on you. It depends and that's why it's so complex, because it depends what your imbalance is.
Yeah.
And so it's funny, because I'm not very logical with this stuff. How I often work is it's very intuitive. So I know then the stuff I've got, or I know how I've made it, also with my flower essences and stuff. And then I'll know just very intuitively. I'm like, no, that's going to be way too heavy. Like for myself, that's way too heavy for me, or that's way too heavy for my partner. He needs more the other nettle, or no, he really needs, like for him, that's really good, because he's quite watery in this, not watery, but he's very Virgo. So it's like very Virgo earthy energy, and he needs like a bit of that fire punch in him. So he gets that nettle, for example. For him, that's really good. But I do suggest not to be too stuck on this stuff, because what happens is you get very stressed out about picking. Because I had a while there where I got really quite into it, and it gets super stressful, because then you're out and you're like, oh my God, okay, it's not Tuesday. Okay, I can't pick the nettles today, but then the nettles look so great. And then you get a little bit stagnant with it. So, well, I did. Other people who are working with these systems may not, but for me, I got quite stagnant with it. And so now I'm a lot more like fluid with it. And I'm like, oh, great. Oh, it's Tuesday. Oh, the nettles look great. Fantastic. I'll write that on the label. That was a Mars nettle tincture. With the moons are a little bit more easier to work with, because we, have the new moon and the full moon. And I work quite a lot with that. So I do try and pick roots in more around new moons, and more flowering tops around the full moons. But yeah, I'm not too staunch about it. I try and be very fluid about it. But I label everything. My little tips, make sure you label everything. That's very important, labeling.
I've made that mistake a lot. And I'm like, what did I put in this bottle?
Yeah, you always think you know, even me. I always think I know.
I'm
and then
if I put it this part of the shelf, I will remember, and then no.
And some herbs you can smell over time if you're very sensory, the herbs I then will be able to smell, but you have to be super careful, because some herbs do also smell very similar, and you can't have mix-ups. That's the thing. So always label. That's where I also am with my students. Like, I'm pretty fluid with a lot of things, but labeling, I become like a staunch nun or something with a little whip thing. Like, did you label? I check everyone and lay all your things out. Did I check all your labels? You haven't got the date on yours.
And then I was wondering, obviously we're going through very turbulent times.
Yeah.
And if there's any patterns that you've noticed come up in your life in the last months, but also maybe the people that you're working with, or that you're having kind of mirrored to you on the outside as well.
Yeah, really fucked up nervous systems. Yeah, a lot about that, actually. A lot of people with quite bad anxiety, a lot of people not really understanding in what directions to move, have been almost like starre. Oh God, I've lost the English word.
Shot in shock.
Yeah, kind of like, in a very, in a shock state almost. Yeah, I mean, it's not so
or
shock.
Numb as well.
Yeah, this numbing kind of shock, and very insecure about the directions that they're wanting to go. I'm really seeing quite a lot of that, and not having much support around it in a way. and not having, and I've been finding this quite interesting also from, I've had actually a lot of patients recently who they've had like not support from their immediate surroundings, like their partner or something like this, and it feels like there's a lot of this happening, you know, a lot of like separation things where some people are kind of going like this and some people are going like that, and they're not really understanding each other.
Yeah.
I am seeing quite a lot of that. And I guess I feel that a little bit in myself sometimes, that I feel that a bit in myself, that I'm not really understanding my own self. Like I'm feeling a disconnection of sorts.
Yeah.
You know, I've always been someone who's trusted my instincts, trusted my gut. That's how I've always kind of made decisions. And I'm finding having moments where it's like I'm not reaching that. It's almost like, yeah, there's something here that you have to like get down in there. I can't even describe it yet, because I'm not even sure myself what exactly the reason for that is at the moment. But yeah, and it feels very like kind of elastic, like it's a bit.
Yeah,
like
I definitely I recognize that in myself and the people around me as well. And are there any certain maybe herbs or tips that you have?
Oh, for these
just
things.
General, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Everyone's obviously individual, but maybe the medicines that feel like they're really current or like of the moment.
Well, because I think this kind of energy, this sort of ripping up, it sort of, that sounds so terrible, but it sort of feels like that a little bit. It feels like people are getting pulled up into this air kind of energy, you know. It's everything's very here, you know, and this whole thing with AI and everything moving very quickly and very very inorganically. It is organic in one way, but it's a robotic kind of organic way of developing, you know, and we can't move as fast with it anymore as we would like, and everyone's using it. And I think not enough people are also understanding the effects on the environment, which I'm just really shocked about it, how much not enough people are talking about that, and the effects on also our society, what it's happening, you know.
Yeah.
But so it's very much this, a lot of stuff is here. So, you know, I would suggest a lot of people rooty stuff, you know, even just root foods. I'm noticing I'm actually eating a lot of beetroot at the moment, which is something that I don't generally eat a lot in summer, but I'm just so drawn to it, like these kind of rooty things myself, just to bring myself down. And even in my tinctures, I'm putting, in my own tinctures, I'm kind of working a lot more with roots. But yeah, I'd suggest rooted, like any kind of rooty herbs. Even, root vegetables will do it as well. It's funny, people often think that we need to have this magic tincture with like all these exotic herbs in it, and it can be as simple as eating a bit of beetroot on your toast in the morning to just bring your energy back down. And I think also very important to give yourself room. It's so quick, everything, and we don't have one moment to, even I feel it, we don't even have hardly any moments to just be, you know, to just go and to just be, even if it's in your house or even if it's taking half an hour away from whatever your computer. It's like this rushy feeling. And so I suggest being very conscious of that, like taking some time away and go sit in nature, you know, take some time away. Don't take your phone, don't even take a book, just go and sit there and lay and stare at the trees. I'm actually telling a lot of my patients that at the moment, interestingly enough, just to go lay down and stare at the trees or a flower, or just look into the sky, watch the clouds, for God's sake. Like, how many people watch clouds anymore?
Yeah, that whole like staring at the trees, especially from like a laying down perspective too, it always makes me think of like when you're a baby and you're in a stroller and your parents are pushing you around and you're just like getting to look at everything from below.
That's probably why I love it so much.
Yeah, because it's like this,
it's very calming.
Safe, calming.
Yeah, I find it very calming. Or sit at the water like we are and just listen to the water. I think just be and allow the senses to run wild. I think there's not enough of that at all, and then our nervous system is just so, it's so fucked. Our adrenals are so fucked, everything, you know.
Fried.
We're fried just from way too much stimulation, and nature's so calming for that.
I just want to check it one time. You still filming? Yeah, good. Imagine if I hadn't pressed record.
Oh, we've done that.
Okay, now I need to cheat. Yeah, so which herbalists, writers, or artists are you inspired by right now?
Oh, I'm terrible with names. That's a very good question. That would have been a question I would
Take that one.
I could have, no, that would have been a question I could have made notes about, because I almost have to write the people down. But yeah, presently, I just got the book for my birthday from Christian Reich, who I just think is great. You know, I think, he was great. He has passed. So, you know, I've used a lot of his material over the years. Elizabeth Brooke, who I do work with the medical astrology. And yeah, I'm always inspired by Claire Holohan, who is, I've also worked with her. They're kind of the ones in the last few weeks. I mean, before that, I've got so many herbal books. I've got my herbal book reference is huge. The Wayward Medicine from Julia and Matthew Seal. I know Julia has another last name. I'm sorry, I have to have a look, but their other last name. But they've got some great books out as well. I like a lot of UK herbalists, also the English speaking. They're kind of the ones that. Oh, there's another one. Yeah, I can't think of all the names. I'm so terrible with that.
That's okay. You already.
I already gave a few. You can follow you can check them out. There's some really great ones that you can start with.
And then beyond herbalists, because I see you as like a multidisciplinary person.
Yeah.
Is there any art or fashion that's getting your juices flowing right now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I stopped fashion, I sort of stood out of that whole thing, that whole scene. I sort of lost the love there. And I'm sorry, fashion people, but I have found the fashion has gotten a little bit boring, in my opinion. I just think there's not, of course the haute couture is still great, but yeah, I just think it's always this, in fashion, it's always this kind of loop, isn't it? That
way too quick as well.
Yeah, way too quick, yeah, and it's, for me it's not great. I have my own looks. Except for Poppy Kaland, who does amazing swimwear. She would be one. She's always an inspiration to me, actually, Tall Poppy, because she does these like great swimmers, which they're recycled from recycled fabric. She does all her own painting on them, so like she creates all her own artworks on them, and she produces them. Her company originally started because she was producing it for female surfers, which I love to support the surfing industry in Australia, particularly the females, or the flinters. And I own about 5 pairs of her swimmers, even though I never wear swimmers, but I do have 5 pairs of hers, and she's great. In that world, she would be like my go-to fashionista. She's always got great outfits on. Artists. I just went and saw lots of art, actually, when I was in, again, I can never remember the artists' names. I can recommend in Bratislava, if you're there, they've got this really great, like a gallery which is on a nature reserve. Or it probably isn't great, but or it's kind of in the middle of a nature reserve. I can recommend going there if you do go there. That was a very interesting place for any of the artists. And my lovely friend Olivia is an amazing artist. Yeah, your work always inspires me.
Oh, thank you.
Love there. Look at how beautiful. this beautiful piece of hers.
Ta-da!
Yeah, I'm always so amazed by these little like plant drawings that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think they're always so special, especially with their little eyes. If they're
They
alive.
are alive.
They're alive.
Okay. I asked that one. Oh yeah, big question, or big topic. Herbalism as activism.
Oh yes, one of my favorite topics.
I know, this is kind of why I even asked you, because that's kind of like, we keep on like throwing that ball back and forth without properly sitting down and chatting about it. But why is herbalism
and activism?
Yeah, or why is it radical in these times even?
Well, you know, herbalism has always been the people's medicine. Well, not always, but maybe always. Yeah, I guess some aspects always have been. You know, starting from the witches to the midwives to the druids to the, you know, it's always been this very nature connected and something that you can access from everywhere in the world. You know, you can always find a plant that is medicinal, and it doesn't matter where you are and who you are and where you come from, what culture you are, what class you are, what race you are. You know, the plants don't differentiate from that. And I think when it comes to medicine, it does. There is a lot of differentiate of where you're from, what culture you're from. Some parts of the world have very little access to medicines. And I think that, you know, that learning about this stuff helps you to become or to understand parts of it, what you can use, even for a simple cold or cough. It helps you become very self-reliant, also just about your own health. You know, we're so reliable these days on the medical systems, and the doctors are so put on a pedestal, and it's not the fault necessarily of the doctors. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's just the way the society's been built now, that it's like doctors know all, medications are going to fix all, but
it's kind of a giving your power away.
Yeah, you're giving the power away. And I think that, you know, having the plants and working with the plants and understanding how wild and how much we're still so wild, you know, we are like plants. We're very similar to them, you know, we're very built similarly to them. And especially in our spirits and that. And I think when we get reconnected with that, then we get connected with our wildness again. You know, and if we're connected with our wildness, then we can make our own decisions, you know, and if we watch the way nature grows, the way a plant will just grow over here and then take over here, that it's making up its own mind, and it's making its own decisions about what's best for itself. And I think,
and also
the environment around it, you know, and I think that's something we've definitely lost in society. And the more we can move towards that, or the more we can help people understand that stuff, then I think there's going to be a lot more understanding about how we can work in society. You know, we can learn so much from the way nature interacts with each other. You know, of course, there are some that will overtake another plant, or that also happens in nature. It's just the nature of things. But yeah, and I guess when you're teaching, sometimes, you know, I might teach at these more social places, you know, where you might be teaching a pure thing about how to use, I don't know, how to use dandelion as a food, or like how to use dandelion as something to support their kidneys, you know, and it can be such a simple method, you know, that with a little bit of vinegar that you put in, and you've got some really nice minerals and vitamins that are being extracted, you know, and that alone can help someone more than you can even understand, more than even I can understand. And that power that you're giving them is so much more than we'll ever understand. We'll understand it, but it just gives I think society so much more power for themselves.
Yeah.
You know, which in our day and age is a huge act of activism, because we're losing the power more and more and more, to the point where I'm already totally freaked out about it, because I think that people aren't really understanding how far and in what danger zone we're already in with that.
Yeah.
And we might come to a point where you know, a lot of these medicines, they might be inaccessible, but they also might stop working. You know,
That's
some
true,
of these
yeah.
antibiotics already, they're not working on a lot of things, and they're having a lot of issues with it. And so I think if we
Also, as our bodies change, like I feel like the planet's going through a lot of shifts, the energy is changing, we're becoming more sensitive, everyone's becoming
Yeah.
more sensitive. And so yeah, probably a lot of those, the old stuff doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, the old systems are going to start possibly breaking, and we're going to have to find not even new systems. We're just going to have to find systems that are very sustainable. And nature is sustainable in its way if we don't ruin it, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it teaches, I really always have to come back to that idea of how it teaches us about being wild. You know, I think that's what's so beautiful about it. And what you wrote me, I really loved that sentence with the stay a rebellious weed. And it's so true. It's like, let's all just be weeds and just be these rebellious weeds and stand our grounds and, you know, understand what it is, what we need and what's good for us and our environment, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what, there's a thing that I teach sometimes at festivals, that plant dating. And I think a lot of people don't get it completely, what it's meaning. It's really about dating a plant. That's the concept of it. She's sitting with a plant. But what the people are not understanding, even people who do a lot of activism, is if you don't understand your inner nature and you don't understand why you're doing certain things and why you're choosing certain paths, then how are you going to help your outside environment if you're confused inside, you know? And these sorts of activities like the plant dating can really help you with that, can really help you understand, yeah, there's all this turmoil inside me. I'm doing certain things because I don't really want to, or this, whatever's coming up, because a lot comes up when you sit with these plants because there's no one to talk to, are there? Not on a talking matter, and it can be quite confronting. But yeah, I think that, so maybe it's a little bit about inner activism as well, about finding your inner activist, which we've all, let's be honest, our modern society is very good at squishing that one. Distracting us. And it's getting worse, and I think that's what the scary thing is. We're getting more and more, as we talked about with AI and this fast moving everything, that we're getting more and more and more distracted, that how are we going to know what's good at us and make our own minds up? This critical thinking is just like a thing of the past slowly, you know?
Yeah, it's a little worrying.
Yeah.
I saw an interesting conversation with Pam Montgomery recently, also a herbalist. She wrote Plant Spirit Healing. And she said something nice too about that the plants are always like a couple evolutionary steps ahead of us.
Yeah.
And also, and I was, thinking about that too, the fact that they're always pulling down the light first, the light as the source of information. And so I feel also like that work with plants or eating them or eating wild plants is kind of getting yourself more in tune with where the energy is now, as opposed to, maybe taking pills that were designed 30 years ago for a completely different time and completely different set of circumstances in the world and bodies and stuff. So I kind of like that as like them being almost like the lantern or this like guiding light that kind of lights the way of the next steps.
Which I totally agree with. I mean, plants will come into your vicinity or into your garden if you have a garden or on your balcony, and they're often the ones you need. Someone who's surrounded by, lemon balm. I've seen this. I've seen it quite often with lemon balm actually, that their garden is just overtaken and they're so angry about it. They're like, this lemon balm, it's overtaken my garden. And I'm always like, it's because you need it. Like, start using it. Yeah. Start eating it in your salads, start working with it because it's there, because it's trying to tell you something, that you need it. They're so much smarter than us. And so I think that she's very right about that that it really does shine our way, and they do definitely work on a much different time zone than we do. And I also agree that they know much earlier than we know about things.
Yeah, like what's up.
what's up and where we're in the direction that we need to go. And I often, when I'm even watching the different years, like, you know, there's some years where for example, this year the linden was just so much.
Explosive.
Those trees were explosive.
Yeah.
And the last time I saw the linden after like that was just after Corona, when our nervous systems were so exhausted and we were so overstimulated, well, not so overstimulated, but we were so exhausted from just whatever and so much anxiety. And it's that kind of similar energy at the presently. And so it's funny how these plants, they just like throw out what is needed. They're just like, I always think of them as being a bit like, hello, woohoo, come on, come over here. And hardly anyone's listening. And I'm like, it's all right, we'll work together. I see you, we see each other. So I do wish that a little bit.
Elder was also
there was
present
a lot
this year as well.
Yeah, there was a lot of that as well. But yes, so I think that was a beautiful way of putting it with also the lanterns in front. I like that image of the plants sort of, you know, and they evolve with us. You know, a lot of modern medicine and stuff, the pills, they evolve it, but humans are evolving it, not another being, you know, and that's what I think plants are so beautiful like that they evolve with our ecosystem evolves with their ecosystem. So they're the great ones to turn to.
How can people work with you online?
Oh, online, interesting. That's a very good question. You know, I steer away. It's funny, I'm getting a lot of inputs about working online at the moment, like a lot of these just over the last month or two. And I see how much in me I steer away from it a little bit. Like, not steer away from it, but I think I always feel like it will shadow my work. And maybe it's because I am so in person and I love to touch things and I love it when someone else can touch things and I love to be able to see someone's, like, physically what they will look like and watch their eyes properly. But I am developing some ideas, and of course I do have a few patients who I do some sessions online as well. And I am developing my herbal course into an online version.
Nice.
I was hoping to bring it out this year. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, that's in the making. And then I'm also on the fire there is this idea of a Flinter empowerment group. So like a supervision, which I would have online as well for some people don't know what Flinter is, but anyone who associates as female. And yeah, I've been wanting to do that for a while now. I just have to navigate how I would do that online. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will link all of Tash's stuff below, her newsletter, her website, her podcast, all the channels.
All the channels, all the beeps, all the socials.
Yeah. And then just one last question. Because I know you have another herbal course coming up in September.
Yeah.
And what's been your favorite thing from teaching it
this last
year? Yeah.
Oh, I'm such a proud mummy. I'm so sorry. They just did a test. They have to do the group has to do a test. No, it's a playful test. It's to help them see their own knowledge. Of course, people get a bit freaked out about it, but it really was just see your knowledge. They're allowed to use the PDFs and stuff. And I was so proud reading through the tests of how good they did. Like, I was so impressed about it. And I think that and again, watching them come to me with questions that they already now know the answers to. So they'll ask me just to make sure that it's fine. And I'm like, look how far you've come. Look at you, you're recognizing plants and you're out there and you're making your medicine cabinet and you're using it and you've healed that person, or not healed, I'm not supposed to use that, but you've helped that person with their cough, or you had a digestive thing and then you reached for the herb instead of something else. And I think, and that's why there's so many things, it's not even one particular thing, but I guess that's what, yeah, I just feel like this proud mama bear, like this proud little, yeah, just there's watching it. It's really like watching a plant grow. It's like in the beginning we put these little seeds down and now they're like these little plants that are kind of starting to maybe even bloom and stuff, and it's It's so exciting. And also when they come to me and then they're like, yeah, I was out in the forest the other day and I found this plant and now the plants are getting more that they're mentioning, and that's it. It's really beautiful to, and also watching how they're working with the plants, because we're all going to work with them differently, and how they're choosing to use that knowledge and the wildness. Yeah, that's definitely I see in them this wildness that starts to come out, the little twinkle in the eye when they
bubbling
talk.
up.
Yeah, that's really beautiful to see, this sort of, you see, yeah, I'm getting in there. I'm getting the anarchist out of you and the wildness out of you. Great, that's what we need more of you, so let's keep on building this.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been such a pleasure to chat about plants, my favourite thing. And some great questions.
Good. I try. And if anyone wants to work with me, you'll find my information as well. I do one-on-one sessions helping guide people through journeys to connect to their soul and different aspects of their experience, whether it's past lives or memories or connecting to plants or other beings. And I also guide mushroom meditations and teach plant yoga if you're in Berlin. And we picked a card from the very beautiful Dirt Gems Plant Oracle deck. And we picked this card for Berlin since we're in Berlin. And we love and sometimes hate Berlin.
Yeah, love-hate relationship.
So, guidance for Berlin.
Oh.
Figwort.
Oh, that card looks very Berlin.
It does look
There's
very
a lot
Berlin.
going on it.
We've got a mirror, we've got a pond, we've got a knife, we've got a teapot, an apron. I don't really know much about Figwort.
That looks like a collecting knife, though. That looks like a foraging knife. Looks like they're going out on an adventure.
Okay. So, Figwort, the compass. If you have met Figwort, you know elegant Figwort stands up tall and takes no nonsense. Figwort is your stern auntie, like Berlin. The one who is the kindest person in the room, but who does not coddle or cater. This unwavering ally, with their deep commitment to what is good and just, will set you on the course you were meant for, but may not have known you were already on. Figwort will course through the entirety of your being, shaking off the chaff. Figwort will discipline your whole organism, not for discipline's sake, but to cut through to the core of your integrity. Figwort is an understated beauty. They are the magnetic center, drawing you near and looking at you squarely in the face. Figwort is not perfume and roses. Figwort is the bitter brew that always makes you feel better. If you are looking for a tough kind of guidance or for an ally to help you cut to the heart of the matter and make bold, clear choices, Figwort is already by your side. Smell the musky waft of Figwort and remember what the most basic, stripped down, and true version of yourself is like. Look that self in the face and you will see Figwort in the shadows of your eyes, smiling with a hand on your shoulder.
That's very fitting.
Yeah. It's not really, I wouldn't call it guidance for Berlin, but
No.
that's like what Berlin does to you
Yeah.
if you stay with her a long time.
Mm-hmm. That's funny.
Okay, well, signing out from Treptower Park in Berlin.
Yeah. Yeah, we found a beautiful spot.
Thank you for watching, and tune in again next time.
Yeah.